Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special prophecy update vlog. Normally, I would not release a vlog this soon, considering I just released one a day or two ago. But I came across some information today that I thought was so fascinating and so pertinent to the times that we are living in today that I just had to get it out as soon as possible. So, with that, let's go ahead and bow our heads with a word of prayer, and then we'll just jump right into it. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity once again that we have to bring some fascinating information before everyone. I pray that you speak through me tonight, and I pray that the information that I present can be clear and concise, and that it can reach the people that need to see it. We thank you for your love. In Jesus' name, amen. Alright, well, this vlog I suspect won't be near as long, but it's going to be packed full of some really great information. But before I get to the meat of this topic, I want to lay just a little bit of background that's going to guide us into what I think is some really fascinating information. So, I know in last vlog we talked a lot about climate change. Well, I found a few more sites and a little bit more information that is going to show where we're headed with the climate change and how all of this ultimately leads up to control and the Sunday Law. So, the first thing that we want to look at is the UN Climate Change Conference that's going to be held in Glasgow, UK, in November of this year. This is a huge conference bringing everybody together, the Vatican, businesses, world leaders, and their goal is uniting the world to tackle climate change. Specifically, this summit will bring together parties to accelerate action towards the goals of the Paris Agreement and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Well, it's really interesting now that President Biden has said that America is definitely back in the Paris Agreement and has a big role to play. And you can see here also that since it's being held in the UK, they're saying that they're committed to working with all countries and joining forces with civil society. So once again, not really sure what climate change has to do with civil societies. Of course, companies and people on the front line of climate change to also inspire this action ahead of this November COP26 conference. So let's quickly take a look at, well, what are some of their goals? All right. So let's take a look here real quick. COP26 goals. So what do they want to achieve? The first thing, they want to get to global net zero. I believe they're talking there about emissions by mid-century, and keep 1.5 degrees within reach. So, you know, the saying that our climate is rising by a certain amount of degrees, and their goal is to reduce greenhouse emissions to stay with under that goal, right? Once again, though, you can see here, I know we talked about it in our last vlog, this date here, 2030, comes up again, and that date corresponds back to the UN Agenda 2030, where they have that big list of goals that they're trying to achieve. So once again, all these things in and of themselves seem good, right? We should protect the environment and we should take care of, the things that God has given us. But, if you really study these things and look at the players involved and what the underlying control mechanisms are, when we put on our prophetic glasses, we can really see what's happening behind the scenes, and it's all being masked by this massive climate movement. The other thing, adapt to protect communities and natural habitats. Mobilize finances. So once again, you're bringing in socialism. You're also bringing in finances now. So they're not just focusing just on the climate. They're trying to roll all of these things under one big umbrella. And then, of course, working together as a whole world, right? Finalizing the Paris rulebook and really working together to tackle this crisis through governments, businesses, and civil society. All right, so the big event that's happening towards the end of this year is this UN Climate Change Conference. So let's look at a few things that, some articles that have come out and talking about some key players and what's going to be going on there as well. All right, so this next article here is our good friend John Kerry, who has become buddies with the Pope, it seems. It says here, Pope Francis to discuss climate change with John Kerry at the Vatican. And since this came out May 14, looks like he already met Saturday, Pope Francis did, with John Kerry, who's also a keynote speaker at the Vatican conference on financial solidarity and climate change. Once again, combining finances with climate change. And then obviously Kerry, who currently serves as the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, is in Europe to meet with government officials and business leaders ahead of the November 1 COP26 convention that we just spoke about. All right. So now we have a special envoy from the United States going to meet with the Vatican on climate change, right? As we've talked about before, the United States will be reaching their hand across to grasp the hand with the Papacy. All right, let's take a look here. A U.S. envoy wants Pope to attend the climate conference to sway the debate. Let's see what John Kerry himself has to say.
Well, the Pope is one of the great voices of reason and compelling moral authority on the subject of the climate crisis. He's been ahead of the curve. He's been a leader. His encyclical Laudato is really a very, very powerful document, eloquent and morally very persuasive. And I think that his voice will be a very important voice leading up to and through the Glasgow conference, which I believe he intends to, hopefully intends to attend. So we need everybody in this fight. We need all the leaders of the world need to come together, and every country needs to do its part. And I think His Holiness speaks with a moral authority that is quite separate. It's unique, and we need all the power we can bring to the table.
Wow, that was pretty interesting. Did you catch how he said we need all world leaders to come together? Wow, when I hear those things and see what's going on here, it just really reiterates, where we stand in time and the things that are lying ahead of us. So let's take a look at this article. COP26 president, it's all down to the next 10 years. The Honorable Alex Sharma, the president of COP26, discusses the Catholic Church's importance in the fight against climate change and stresses that it all comes down to how we act together because it's all down to the next 10 years. I don't know what it is that they are so obsessed with the dates and times around 2030 because, there's the UN 2030 agenda, COP26 talking about now that we have to act now because we only have 10 years to get all of this done. And I think it just goes, back to that we're coming to the end of, God's great prophetic timeline, the end of the 6,000 years. That's what all these things are saying to me. All right, the world is standing on the precipice of multiple crises, former UN chief warns. All right, well, okay, that's interesting. The former UN Secretary General Ban KiMoon said the coming 10 years, well, once again, there we go, the 10 years, 2030, would be crucially important for global leaders to work on the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. These are the 17 goals created by the New York-based organization, which are a call for action on economic, social, and environmental sustainability by the year 2030. Narrowing it down, he said that the ongoing COVID-19 crisis had further highlighted the impact of a global water shortage. Now, when I first read this article, what stood out to me was, how does he know what is going to happen, that we're standing on the precipice of multiple crises? We know that, prophetically, yes, the world is going to go down the hill, right? Climate and environmental disasters are going to increase. We know that. But when you read these things, it makes it look like they already know the plans and the agenda that they have in place. And it's like they're just reading out of a playbook, and they're just going to play these cards one after one until they get to whatever their end goal is, which we know what their end goal is. So it's just kind of really interesting and struck me as, he's predicting and not even predicting, he acts like he knows what's going to happen. All right, so we talked a little bit about all of this COP26 and climate change, and this great, once again, What's Up Prof video that came out recently talking about COP26, the road to COP26, and also the Great Reset as well, which, like I said before, they all kind of blend together. But I highly recommend you check out this video that goes into great detail explaining a lot of this. All right, so talking about the climate change, and there's specifically an organization that is really pushing the link between climate change and rest. So let's point out here, this is Climate Collab. So one emission-free day per week can make a profound impact on climate change. So they're pitching out, once a week, give our beautiful planet a day of rest. An emission-free day, a green Sabbath day, right? So they're now linking climate change to having 1 week or 1 day a week of rest. So green Sabbath is a non-religious, well, I find that kind of interesting, saying they're non-religious, whereas when you study more about this and read this, they're really pushing for a Sunday rest. But okay, we'll go with that. A non-political, non-profit campaign which aims to raise awareness and to encourage people to help slow climate change, preserve precious natural resources, and improve planet health by observing at least one carbon footprint-free day each week. Here they say on any day of the week, but we know what's coming and we know what day they're going to pick based on every day they've picked so far. And we call it symbolically a Green Sabbath day. So let's look at their actual website called the Green Sabbath Project. So they say, is there nothing you can do about the environment? Nothing may be one of the best things you can do. 1 day a week, do nothing. And this really goes back to, if you remember, last year during the pandemic when everything shut down, how people were saying, the smog was gone, the rivers were flowing clean again. In certain places you could finally see the mountains. And, that does show that obviously we are polluting and destroying our planet. But it's just so interesting how they're tying, Sunday rest into the environment. It's actually very, very interesting. So now we have organizations who are promoting a link between Sunday law, Sunday worship, Sunday rest with climate. All right, so this leads us up to an article that I discovered today. And when I read it, it really just jumped out at me. And the things that they were talking about in there were just prophetic in nature and tied back into all the other things that we had spoken about before. So here's the article. Let me scroll back up to the top. And this article is so good, I was just going to try to highlight some of it, but I'm just going to have to read the whole thing because honestly, I couldn't really take out too much. So let's go ahead. We'll go through this article, then we'll look at a couple of the sites that they talk about, and then it kind of led me down this path of following some new things that literally just came out yesterday and today. All right, so the Vatican readies to roll out spectacular action plan for Laudato Si. So if you're not really familiar with Laudato Si, I will show a little bit of the PDF of it and highlight a couple of things out of it. But basically, from a high level, this was an article that came out from the Pope in 2015, and it was highlighting his call to action, and it was very heavy on climate mainly, but hidden within this big, huge document, there's there's things on Sabbath and Sunday as well, and so we'll show that here in a minute. All right, Pope Francis kicked off his own Laudato Si Week Sunday, which wraps up an entire year dedicated to his 2015 encyclical letter on the environment, the first ever dedicated entirely to that topic in its dramatic call to hear the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Though people all over the world were energized by the document, it's unlikely anybody's more excited about the prospects for this week than the Pontiff fellow Argentine Father Augusto Zampini. He says, the most important part of Laudato Si Week is that it closes the year of the 5th anniversary with events that we could not do because of the pandemic, he said. We came up with the idea of the Laudato Si year with the help of the Pope. He told us, take advantage of it, saying, take advantage of the pandemic, right? They say never let a good pandemic go to waste. And do the whole year of Laudato Si, which ends with this week that I think we are going to do every year. So Zampini is an adjunct secretary in the Vatican's dicastery for promoting integral human development and the official responsible for the week-long observance. So it runs May 16 to 25. Well, in this case, it was over today. And it will close with what Zampini defined as the most important thing, the announcement of a 7-year action plan inspired by the encyclical, that's the Laudato Si, that has even the President of the United Nations COP21 Summit on Climate. Now, I will say they use COP21 here in a lot of places, but they also say that COP21 is going to take place in November. So I think they really meant to say here COP26, because they say it's also down here in Glasgow. But COP21 actually took place back in 2015 in Paris. So I think they may have a typo here. To be held later on this year in Glasgow, paying attention. So they're saying the 7-year action plan is so bold, so amazing, if you will, that even the president of COP26 is now paying attention. So we will launch the Laudato Si action plan, which are 7 jubilee years. Well, that's interesting, of concrete action. Zampini said, the hope, he said, is that it will create a massive movement of families, parishes, schools and universities, health centers and hospitals, businesses and governments. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. He's saying create a massive movement. When we kind of look at some of the things that they're mentioning, that is their goal, right? They're wanting to create this groundswell, this movement push from underneath towards certain actions. The idea is that everyone commits to the 7 Laudato Si resolutions, which are easy. Okay, well, that's good. And with each step, you get a Laudato Si award. The action plan is projected to run in parallel to the last 7 years of the decade of action of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which, among other things, aim to end global hunger by the time 2030 rolls around. Wow, they are so obsessed with 2030 and 2027 and those years right around then. It's really mind-boggling. It's crazy. However, the 7 goals are based on 3 things, and simpler than the one the United Nations 17 interlinked global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future. Without revealing the 7 goals in full, the formal rollout will take place May 25. Well, that's today. Zampini said they are based on 3 things: energy use, waste, and water. Well, I think that he's very much simplifying it. I guarantee you that there's a lot more involved, and I'll show you some of those things, but even then, I don't think it's going to do it justice. The idea is that the plan should be carried out in community. You take steps, but you take them with your family, in your school, in your parish. So you foster change among those who surround you, even by modifying the way you vacation. So he's saying energy use, waste, and water, but we're actually going to control even how you vacation. Like, that is very specific. The idea is to make it something massive. And our plan is to present it to COP21 in Glasgow. Well, I think it's COP26 in Glasgow, the priest said. And we have millions of people around the world who have already committed to change their life, to change their business, their university. The way we see it, even before fully announcing the action plan, we know that there is no turning back. Zampini, who's used to speaking to both with global leaders at the Davos World Economic Forum, well, there you go, tying it back to economy, and to grassroots movements as leadership member of the Vatican's dicastery for promoting integral human development, acknowledged that the plan being unveiled by the Catholic Church is extremely ambitious, while highlighting that the project already has over 100 partners, each of which brings their own global network, who are committed to making small changes in the way they behave and do business, which will in time reshape the world. So when I hear things that businesses, and we already saw before in the last vlog where the Pope met with MasterCard, Bank of America, these world large financial organizations, and it says they are going to come together to reshape the world. Well, obviously they're going to reshape it the way the Pope wants it reshaped, right? Where we all have to follow lock in step exactly with what they say to do. So Zampini, who before heading to the Vatican obtained a master's degree in international development from the University of Bath, he has been a member of Pope Francis' COVID-19 Commission since it was instituted. So we thought that it'd be a year-long project because back then we assumed COVID would not last more than a year, he said over the phone. From the beginning, our idea was to close the Laudato Si Commission year with the launching of the action plan. Evidently, COVID is still going on, but we're launching the plan anyway with the hopes that we can also implement the many things we've learned from the pandemic. Once again, don't let a pandemic go to waste. The commission has already been presented to Alok Sharma, who will head the November 1-2 Glasgow United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP26 actually. According to Zampini, he was very interested in the project and asked to have a copy of the material that will be released by the Vatican when introducing it. It is very important to be able to tell the world that we are launching ambitious actions that respond to the Pope Francis's request to dream big, he said. He told us that our role was to change the current economy and change structures. He didn't want little things, so we went with spectacular. As part of the action plan, the dicastery will unveil the Laudato Si action platform May 25 ahead of its full launch on October 4. The platform is meant to help those who want to increase their commitment to bringing Laudato Si to life by promising a set of actions over a period of 7 years. Wow, there's so much packed in there, and I had to read it through a couple times just trying to catch all the little pieces that were in there. And wow, so much to take a look at. So with that being said, let's first hop over and take a look at the Laudato Si and I want to point out a couple of things within the document here. All right. So within this document, I just did a search for Sabbath, and it gave me a couple of articles that are not articles, but so the Laudato Si is broken down into sections. So this is section 71, and I don't know, there's a bunch of sections here, but let's just take a look at this one first. Although the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, Nonetheless, through Noah, who remained innocent and just, God decided to open a path of salvation. In this way, he gave humanity the chance of a new beginning. All it takes is one good person to restore hope. The biblical tradition clearly shows that this renewal entails recovering and respecting the rhythms inscribed in nature by the hand of the Creator. We see this, for example, in the law of the Sabbath. Okay. On the seventh day, okay, wow, he got that part right. So far, so good. God rested from all his work. Okay, so that's true. He commanded Israel to set aside each 7th day as a day of rest, a Sabbath. Okay, well, that is accurate. Similarly, every 7 years, a sabbatical year was set aside for Israel, a complete rest for the land. All right. So, when sowing was forbidden and one reaped only what was necessary to live on and to feed one's household, finally, after 7 weeks of years, which is to say 49 years, the Jubilee was celebrated as a year of general forgiveness and liberty throughout the land for all in its inhabitants. So let's back up here. Remember in the article we just read, they're going to do 7 years and they called it a Jubilee. So looking back at the Laudato Si, and we know biblically what a Jubilee was, right? Talking about that it was a complete rest for the land. So when I saw that and saw this connection, it was just fascinating to me that they're planning their 7 years as kind of a coinciding with a complete rest for the land, which typically, when you look back in the rest for the land, how they're proposing to do that is to rest 1 day a week, because they talked about with 1 day a week, we can cut back our carbon emissions, we can cut back, all the pollution that we're generating and give the land a rest. So I just found that the words that they're using there just so fascinating. This law came about as an attempt to ensure balance and fairness in their relationship with others and with the land on which they lived and worked. All right, so let's go down to the next section here. Oh, where did it go here? I had it, and it was talking about... Oh, here it is. Okay. So this is 237. So it says, on Sunday, our participation in the Eucharist has special importance. Sunday, like the Jewish Sabbath, so now they're putting Sunday on the same foot as the Jewish Sabbath, is meant to be a day which heals our relationship with God, ourselves, and with others, and with the world. So it's saying now by honoring Sunday, it heals our relationship with the world. Sunday is the day of the resurrection, the first day of the new creation, whose first fruits are the Lord's risen humanity, the pledge of the final transfiguration of all created reality. So once again, they're tying Sunday, comparing it to God's 7th day Sabbath, but saying it's just as important, and it's healing relationships with God, ourselves, the world, right? And so they're kind of going full circle here. And to me, it just really highlights how, the Vatican is using climate, now this 7-year plan of jubilees, as they said, to give the land a rest. And how do we do that? By resting on Sunday, right? So kind of full circle there. All right, so let's actually look at the Laudato Si website. And I'd never looked at this website before, but it was actually quite fascinating. And looking at what we were seeing here. So first of all, they had last year they had the Laudato Si year, right? Which I didn't even know was happening. And that was from May 24 of 2020 to obviously May 24 of this year. And that says the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development announces a special Laudato Si anniversary year from those dates I just said. The dicastery hope that the anniversary year and the ensuing decade will indeed be a time of grace, a true kairos experience. I'm not sure what kairos means. And a jubilee, time for the earth. Well, there it is again. And for humanity and for all God's creatures. The anniversary year will open with Laudato Si Week 2020 and will proceed with several initiatives realized in partnership and with a clear emphasis on ecological conversion in action. All right, there you go, have it there. All right, so we first had Laudato Si year. All right, now let's go to the next one where they just wrapped up the Laudato Si week. To celebrate the end of that special anniversary year, Pope Francis invites the world's 1.3 billion Catholics to joyfully participate in Laudato Si week to be held this May 16th to 24th. The Vatican-sponsored celebration will bring Catholics together to rejoice in the great progress they've made in bringing Laudato Si to life and to plan ambitious action ahead of the UN Biodiversity Conference and the 26th UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, and the decade ahead. All right, so we had our first year. Now we just had a special week. And now we're actually going to look at the Laudato Si action plan here, where they're talking about this new platform that they're rolling out as part of those 7 goals. So it says, during the Laudato Si special anniversary year, the dicastery launched a new program and a public commitment for various institutions to begin this 7-year journey to total sustainability in the spirit of Laudato Si. So looking down here, let me go ahead and just go to this. This is showing the 7 areas in their action plan. So response to the cry of the poor, which once again, all these things sound great, but we know prophecy tells us that we know the world is not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it comes to an end. But by doing all these things, saying we're going to solve hunger, we're going to solve climate change, we're going to solve poor people, all these things, they're basically going counterintuitive to the Bible and thinking that mankind can fix sin and fix all the things that is wrong with this world. And we just know that's not even possible. So ecological economics, adoption of simple lifestyles. And so part of the adoption of simple lifestyles is, of course, you remember we talked about the green Sabbath. What's one of the best things you can do is do nothing, right? So that's all part of the simple lifestyles. Ecological education. So apparently we need to be more educated. We need to roll spirituality now into this. Community engagement and participatory action. So there's a mandated element of participation in the response to the cry of the earth. All right, so those are their 7 goals. Now, we kind of mentioned earlier briefly, I don't know if you caught it, so in response to all these 7 goals, once you sign up and are mandated eventually to participate in these goals, you'll be given a Laudato Si award starting in 2021. So an example for outstanding people's movements. So you can get a leader award, a family award, educational. So schools, universities can get faith, so religious communities, youth, people's movement, economy, finance, business. Wow, so you can get an award pretty much in all these categories. And when I read this, it's like, all right, so they're trying to bribe people and create basically a social credit system, if you will, of, you do this action, you get this reward. And it really made me think of another article that I've seen, and I know that China is really big on social credit systems. And so I found this article that was even scarier because at the time it was only in China, but now you can see that it's creeping into Canada. And it's saying here that China's surveillance system of social credit has expanded globally and is now openly operational in Western Canada. And if you're not familiar with how that works, is they monitor everything you do, the sites that you visit, the things that you say. I remember one of the things that they mentioned is if you buy too many video games or you buy certain books that they don't approve of, it dings your credit score. And if you do those things, you may be a yellow or even red, and it affects places you're able to go, different benefits. Like, for example, you may not be able to go to sporting events or concerts or things like that. And it's just proving that we already have these things in place that are going to be able to control our actions. So with this social reward system, if we don't meet a certain aspect of this Laudato Si 7-year action plan, then we may be yellow or red, and we won't be able to, I don't know, maybe go buy or sell, go to the grocery store or something like that if you don't meet their requirements. So it's just it's just in your face, really, if you go look for it. And it's just showing how all these things are coming together. So with that being said, they also launched this very nice looking Laudato Si action platform site, and talking about caring for our brothers and sisters means caring for the home we share. This responsibility is essential to a life of virtue. Like I said, they say a lot of nice things. Yeah, we need to care for our home. We need to care for our brothers and sisters. That's absolutely true. But when they say that these things, we must all come together to basically change everything and change it in a certain way. Well, who decides which way it needs to be changed to? And, who's going to dictate what are all these things that we must do to come together, right? Well, obviously the people and the institution that's heading up all of these things. All right, so looking just quickly, here's the goals again. These were the same 7 goals that we showed in that the circular looking goals. And looking now at beginning the journey. So, like they mentioned, right now they've just released this website and they just released some of these goals. But on October 4, the Feast of St. Francis, they're promoting integral human development, will begin offering Laudato Si plans. So you can actually come in here, you can complete a registration form and pledge to pursue your Laudato Si plan when they're actually formally launched. So what they're expecting is for businesses, churches, individuals, and to come together to register to complete one of these goals and or all of these goals. And when I was reading some of these, it said that they must be completed no later than the 7 years. Like, they were very clear about that. And I was just, just once again, it was just so interesting why they're so hung up on having all these things completed by that 7-year mark. So now looking at their timeline, so they just announced this action platform just today and yesterday. They're looking for pledges. Like I said, you can pledge now to complete these certain goals and these actions. And then later in October, the plans actually open up. And then in 2022, they'll have additional programs and tools and more resources to help you achieve those goals. So it says here, we urgently need, as we recover from the pandemic and build a better world for generations to come. And it says, the Laudato Si provides the moral and spiritual compass. Well, I know for me personally, that my moral and spiritual compass is definitely not the Laudato Si. That would be the Word of God. And it's really sad to see how so many people they worship this Laudato Si. They put it above the Bible, and because there's a lot of things in there clearly that go against the Bible, and so it's just really terrible to see. But we know that those things are going to happen. All right, let's listen to what Pope Francis himself has to say about the Laudato Si action platform. Unfortunately, he's speaking in, I guess, Italian or Latin, and it is subtitled, but either way, it's pretty interesting.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, con l'enciclica Laudato Si, promulgata nel 2015, invitavo tutte le persone di buona volontà a prendersi cura della terra che è la nostra casa comune. Da tempo ormai questa casa che ci ospita soffre per ferite che noi provochiamo a causa di un atteggiamento predatorio che ci fa sentire padroni del pianeta e delle sue risorse e ci autorizza a un uso irresponsabile dei beni che Dio ci ha dato. Oggi queste ferite si manifestano drammaticamente in una crisi ecologica senza precedenti, che interessa il suolo, l'aria, l'acqua e in genere l'ecosistema in cui gli esseri umani vivono. L'attuale pandemia poi ha portato alla luce in modo ancora più forte il grido della natura e quello dei poveri che ne subiscono maggiormente le conseguenze, evidenziando che tutto è interconnesso e interdipendente e che la nostra salute non è separata dalla salute dall'ambiente in cui viviamo. Abbiamo bisogno perciò di un nuovo approccio ecologico che trasformi il nostro modo di abitare il mondo, i nostri stili di vita, la nostra relazione con le risorse della terra e in generale il modo di guardare all'uomo e di vivere la vita. Un'ecologia umana integrale che coinvolge non solo le questioni ambientali, ma l'uomo nella sua totalità, diventa capace di ascoltare il grido dei poveri ed essere fermento per una nuova società. Abbiamo una grande responsabilità, specialmente nei confronti delle future generazioni. Che mondo vogliamo lasciare ai nostri bambini e ai nostri giovani? Il nostro egoismo, la nostra indifferenza e i nostri stili irresponsabili stanno minacciando il futuro dei nostri ragazzi. Rinnovo allora il mio appello. Prendiamoci cura della nostra madre terra. Vinciamo la tentazione dell'egoismo che ci rende predatori delle risorse. Coltiviamo il rispetto per i doni della terra, della creazione. Inauguriamo uno stile di vita e una società finalmente ecosostenibili. Abbiamo l'opportunità di preparare un domani migliore per tutti. Dalle mani di Dio abbiamo ricevuto un giardino. Ai nostri figli non possiamo lasciare un deserto. In questo contesto, il 24 maggio 2020, ho indetto l'anno Laudato Si, la cui organizzazione è stata affidata al Dicastero per il Servizio di Sviluppo Umano Integrale. Ringrazio tutti coloro che hanno celebrato quest'anno con moltissime iniziative. Oggi sono lieto di annunciare che l'anno Laudato Si sfocerà in un progetto di azione concreto, la Laudato Si Action Platform, un cammino di 7 anni che vedrà impegnate in diversi modi le nostre comunità, perché diventino totalmente sostenibili nello spirito dell'ecologia integrale. Vorrei dunque invitare tutti ad affrontare questo cammino insieme. In particolare mi rivolgo a queste 7 realtà: famiglie, parrocchie e diocesi, scuole e università, ospedali, imprese e aziende agricole, organizzazioni, gruppi e movimenti, istituti religiosi. Lavorare insieme, solo così potremo creare il futuro che vogliamo, un mondo più inclusivo, fraterno, pacifico e sostenibile. In un cammino che durerà per 7 anni, ci lasceremo guidare da 7 oggettivi del Laudato Si che ci indicheranno la direzione mentre perseguiamo la visione dell'ecologia integrale. La risposta al grido della terra, la risposta al grido dei poveri, l'economia ecologica, l'adozione di uno stile di vita semplice, l'educazione ecologica, la spiritualità ecologica e l'impegno comunitario. C'è speranza. Tutti possiamo collaborare, ognuno con la propria cultura ed esperienza, ciascuno con le proprie iniziative e capacità, perché la nostra madre terra ritorni alla sua originale bellezza e la creazione torni a risplendere secondo il progetto di Dio. Dio benedica ognuno di voi e benedica la nostra missione di ricostruire la nostra casa comune. Grazie.
Wow. Well, I hope you caught some of the key words in there. I saw kind of at the beginning the talking about healing the wound or the wounds of this land, right? We know that in prophecy they'll be talking about that eventually, the wound, the papal wound that was created is going to be healed. And it was interesting to see that come up. He's talking about using climate change and climate action to heal that wound. And then once again, that we have the 7 years only to complete all these things is very interesting. So just a few more articles here. I just kind of want to wrap up where all this is going, and is there a push for what we know is coming. So we have here Christ in Common Sense, the importance of Sunday as a holy day. So we're seeing an uprising from the people, if you will, saying that Sunday is so important. It's a holy day that we need to observe it, right? So we have articles like this that are now coming out saying that, and we need to keep that. We also have doctors supporting Sunday restriction. In this case, the Barbados Association is in full agreement with governments to keep automarts and supermarkets closed on Sundays. So we have the people, we have doctors. We also have the Wall Street Journal now saying what we've lost in rejecting the Sabbath, setting aside 1 day a week for rest and prayer used to be an American tradition. In an age of constant activity, we need it more than ever. I would 100% agree with that statement, except for what day do you think they're choosing? Are they choosing Saturday? No, they're choosing Sunday. And in fact, further down, they had a poster saying, "Save our Sunday. Vote no on secular Sunday movies." So, once again, they have some good ideas, but they always seem to get the day wrong. And then lastly, this organization has been around for actually quite a long time, but they're really making a push now to get the Sunday Alliance going. And this is happening over in Europe, and I've been following them for quite a number of years, actually. And they kind of went quiet for a while, but they seem to be ramping back up again. In fact, they're having the right to disconnect and the need for a European weekly common day of rest, like a webinar, June 1st. And actually, anyone can attend by registering this link right here. You just sign up and you can join. I think it's like 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. But, why I'm showing you all these things is, and these are just a small sampling of the articles, and, I showed a lot more in the last vlog as well, but I think the picture is even more painted. What I see and kind of trying to wrap all this up is we know that we're living at the end of God's great prophetic timeline, right? He gave us 6,000 years for the great conflict between Christ and Satan to be waged out. We're coming to the end of that. We don't know the exact day nor the hour, but we'll know when it's near, even at the door, and we can hear it banging on that door. So to counter that, Satan knows that his time is short. So what is he going to do? He has his own counterfeits that he's doing. Well, he's saying that by 2030, we need these climate action plans in place. The Vatican is saying we have now 7 years to implement these goals. There's many other articles talking, about we have 9 years to avoid a ecological disaster. The WHO is saying that in the next 10 years we are going to have all these disasters happening. So you see those things. Now you see these push for Sunday Alliance. You see as part of this, there's 100 national Sunday Alliances, trade unions. We know those are going to be huge. Employers organizations, civil society organizations, churches, and religious communities. They're all trying to raise awareness together. And people saying, well, these things, have been talked about for hundreds of years, and we have hundreds of years longer, but there's no way. When you look at how everything is coming together perfectly, they're all coalescing around this certain time frame. You have everything in place. You have the control mechanisms. You have these health passports. You have digital currencies coming along. You have ways to control buying and selling. You have ways to control people's movements. You have Sunday lockdowns. You have every piece of the puzzle that's in place, right? And all it's going to take is for more and more natural disasters to keep happening like they already are. They're just going to keep getting worse and worse. And then they're going to use that and say, see, look, this is why we need climate change. We need climate lockdown. We need to rest. We need to heal the land. We need these jubilees. How are we going to do that? By a weekly rest. Well, what day are we going to choose? It's going to be Sunday. Then the next thing you know, there's going to be a Sunday family day, which there already are in other countries that we showed in the last vlog. Eventually, we know the United States will be foremost in pushing that. So I just think that hopefully all of this is coming together and making sense and really showing the importance of where we are in that. Ultimately, we need to wake up. We need to get our lives right with God. We need to pray and study every day and to be ready for what's soon to come upon us. I think a lot sooner than most people think. And so with that being said, once again, if you have any questions, comments, want to talk about anything, please reach out to me at my email address. I'll be happy to answer any questions. So with that, please join me in a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity that we had to come together to share these important truths that just keep coming, and the information is just flowing rapidly now. I pray that those who really need to hear this can hear it, and I pray that this goes out to all over, and that we can once again share the third angel's message with everyone that we can, and more importantly, that we draw closer to you each and every day, because we know that time is short and we need to get our lives right with you. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.